It's showtime.
Down to business. I got my wild cherry Diet Pepsi, and I got my blackjack gum here, and I got that feeling. Yeah, that familiar feeling that something rank is going down out there.
Gutter.
It's a nice spot.
Gutter.
It's a nice spot. It's a nice spot. It's a nice spot. It's a nice spot.
And if you can't believe it, it's a Friday once again.
It is political. You're a communist.
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring.
Greetings. At its core, there is nothing more human than a story. Long before chisel impacted stone or ink kissed papyrus, there was a voice, weaving tales in the shadows around the fire that warded off the unknown, embracing lessons learned with the only weapon known from generation to generation, meaning. Stories shaped us, bind us, remind us of who we are, who we were, and who we pretend to be. Tonight we will talk of one such story, a story about the hubris of man, the beauty of a woman, and the highs and lows that a hero can drive towards. One man's crime is another's destiny. One empire's fall is another's victory song. We carve names into time itself, hoping to be remembered, but memory is a fickle beast, twisting, shifting, and weaving away from the sharp edge of truth until only the story remains. No gods here. No miracles to push the pieces into place. Just men. Men shackled to their choices, dragging the millstone of their own legends behind them. The details change, the faces blur, but the tale endures, because we need it to. Tonight, we don't just look to history, we will watch it be rewritten. Again, because the only thing more lasting than stone, the only thing stronger than bronze, is the power of a well-told story. Welcome to the place between the legends. Welcome to the gutter. Everyone ends up here eventually. It is only a matter of time. I am joined by the one, the only, the award-winning Big Meat himself, JP. JP, how are we doing tonight?
Oh, good, man. I really enjoyed the intro, and it reminded me of a quote from my favorite philosopher, Marius Carius, who said, "And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on."
It begins already. And on that note, our special guest this evening is none other than Michael Oden. Michael Oden joining us, I believe this is your fourth time.
That sounds right. I think so. I've definitely been on here. There was one time I filled in for JP one week, and then
on here for a couple of weeks. And then you were here once for Judex, and then once again, I believe. So either way, you are the Alec Baldwin to our Saturday Night Live. So please do not shoot the cameraman as we progress through this episode. Turning to the chat, let's see who we've got joining us this evening. We've got Citizen Ronan saying, "Wait, Oden again." Well, that's a warm welcome. Thank you very much for that, Citizen Ronan. Thanks for joining us. Cam's here. Hello, always a pleasure to see Cam. Cam is one of my favorite people that does good things over there on the Twitter machine. Miranda has joined us. Hey, Miranda, of course, is infamous for taking my seat on Oden's Rome and France show. So thank you very much for that, Miranda. Stygia has joined us. Oh, I love this comic series. We have a mixed bag of reviews, but overall it'll be positive. There's just a lot of caveats, and we'll get into all of them. Too much to Snuggy Jr., who is also here's chagrin. What's up, chat? What's up, Snuggy? What the fuck? What are we talking about tonight? The USC versus Michigan State game? I wish. We will be covering that on Wednesday. Well, I will be covering that on Wednesday because JP will not be available for both the upcoming Aldous and Rated show on Wednesday, nor next week's Gutter. But we've got some magic behind the scenes working, and we'll put something together that's pretty special. Miranda is so excited, which is probably the first time in 101 episodes that anybody has actually been excited for an episode of The Gutter. Assimilating Knowledge is here. What's up, Home Slices? Well, what's going on? Assimilating Knowledge. Kayla has joined us. What's up, fellow Gutter Dwellers? Good to see you, Kayla. Everybody's saying hi. Snuggy says, "Yo, Assman." And Assman says hi to everybody. Scrolling down, we've got everybody saying hi to each other. Mr. Bemis has joined us. We discovered on Wednesday that Mr. Bemis is a toilet seat magnet. That was a shock to us all, but now we know so much more about Mr. Bemis. Appreciate that as much as we appreciate Mr. Bemis stopping by. Scrolling down, let's see what else we've got. Marius Carius is my favorite philosopher too, JP. Oh, well, there you go. Hojo's here. He's back from Florida. It only took 14 hours. It only took 14 hours for you to be in Florida, or it only took you 14 hours to be back from Florida. And scrolling up, we got Paulus Arts here. Good to see Paulus Arts. Lady Allie Books. Great to see Allie. Zaid Comics is here. Oi, oi, oi. Man, we got everybody rolling in. The only assumption I can make is it's to see JP and I, because I'm pretty sure nobody other than Miranda's here to see Oden.
I mean, that is a more than fair assumption.
So our book tonight is written, drawn, created in every regard by Eric Schanhauer. And this is Eric Schanhauer. From 1998, from November of 98 to July of 2013, he produced 33 issues of this, and 33 issues in just about 15 years. It's just about 2 issues per year. And it's been collected into 4 volumes. 1,000 Ships is volume 1, Sacrifice is volume 2, Betrayal Part 1, volume 3, and Betrayal Part 2 is volume 4. There are 3 more volumes planned. However, Mr. Stahauer is on the wrong side of 60. So I'm concerned about this series getting finished. And what are your thoughts on that, Oden?
I don't think it's getting finished. I had an exchange with him I think right before I deployed in like 2014, maybe 2015, asking because like at that point, I think Betrayal Part 2 had just been released. And so like he was like, "Oh yeah, I know it's absolutely not done. I'm still working on it." And I was like, "Cool." And then, it's that was literally a decade ago. So.
Right. Yeah, I haven't heard much of this since around, gosh, I want to say 2019. Was the last time I saw him
Five
doing
Ghosts of
junkets.
Fabian Gray. It's done. It's never coming back.
Right. Now there is some interesting history, Odin. I dug a little bit into this. I don't know if you were aware of this, but Mr. Shanauer actually purchased the DeLorean from Back to the Future and went
No shit. I did not know that.
And went forward in time and watched the movie Troy and based the entire volume, all 7 volumes, on this one film.
This is a troll. I hate you so
Were you
much.
aware of this?
No, it's pronounced Troy.
Oh, is it Troy? Yeah, it's Troy, not Troll. This is Troy. The Y is Troy. It's so this entire 7-volume series that is planned, 4 volumes that are out, are based on the movie Troy. Where, of course, Brian Cox played the amazing Agamemnon, and we do nothing but praise him both here on the Gutter and in all other venues. Isn't that right, Odin? We praise Brian Cox's portrayal of Agamemnon.
That's one of the few good things about that movie, sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Brian Cox is the best part of every movie.
And went back in time and based the entire books off the movie. But yeah, so there's 33 issues. The first volume that we'll be covering tonight, which is 1,000 Ships, covers the first 9 issues of the floppy. I do have a couple of the covers. I do want to show you some of the original covers of the floppy. Now, again, they get both better and worse. The covers don't necessarily do this book service as floppies, in my opinion. They are not what I would call engaging nor consistent in their style or format. So this is just a sampling of the covers.
Yeah, I was curious why he. I know that this is because it, like, when we talk about it, like, I know that was from a flashback that you get, and it's meant to show that it was like a different time. But I always thought that was a really fucking weird choice. That is one of my critiques.
Yes, and then of course
I had a problem with the first cover. What was that first one? Because just choosing to put Ben Shapiro on the cover.
But the collected 1,000 Ships that we will be talking about tonight is book 1 of the 4 that are available. You can get this on Amazon. It's about $30, and it's about 220 pages of content. Mm-hmm. It's a light recommend, and as you go through this, you know what? I'll go through this now. Here, in my opinion, is the prerequisites for really truly enjoying what Mr. Shanauer did here. You have to have read and understood the Iliad. You have to have read and understood the Odyssey. A beyond basic level of Greek mythology should be understood, and you should have a basic level understanding of how Greek translates to English. I think if you have those 4 baselines down, if you've taken at least one collegiate class on the Greek language, or you were in a Greek fraternity and forced to learn at least the pronunciation of Greek letters and the alphabet, and like phrasing and grammar, and have a beyond traditional understanding of Greek mythology, and have read the Iliad and the Odyssey more than once, I think this is an absolute must buy. It's a very, very historical take on what
if you had a gym teacher that liked to rub himself in olive oil and wrestle with you on the weekend?
I mean, you like gladiator movies, JP? Let's turn to the chat and see what everybody's. These covers are shit. There's absolutely. Snuggie is saying Helm's Deep was inspired by the Trojan War. Henry Bemis is saying those covers make men floppy. A light recommend from all this is a horrible. Crazy Mad's joined us. Always a pleasure to see Crazy Mad. Brad Pitt's Achilles was top notch too, and I won't hear bad words said about Aussie hero Eric Bana. Ooh, Eric Bana in the role of Hector, of course. Who hasn't read the Iliad and the Odyssey? A lot of people.
Well, unfortunately, yeah.
I have, but I don't remember any of it. That's just me being honest. It's been so long. I mostly read philosophical texts. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good, man. No judgment here. And at least not from me. Aldous will probably glare at you for it.
Yeah, that'll be later though. Waiting now. It just said, JP, I told you that gym story teacher story in private. KSSS has joined us, and he had a baklava and knew a guy who sprayed Windex on everything. Does that count? Yes, absolutely. That does count for sure. Henry Bemis also getting in on the how does JP know my junior high's gym teacher? What if I just Armando Sante in the Odyssey? That counts. I'll give you half a point for that. Lady Allie says, make sure to read the Oedipus plays of Sophocles before you buy an Oden book. This is a joke only Oden and his girlfriend will understand. Let go of nip control, awesome one says. So getting right into this, jumping in, avoiding all that other stuff. What are your thoughts on this? Because this is, Oden, it is a very historically context book. It's
100%. It's very academic. Like I think if you have the collection, there's like, which I do, you literally have like annotated bibliography, academic advisors and everything. It almost feels like this is like a illustrated thesis almost. So like it is very much a academic book. It is supposed to be historiographic in nature, so they've pretty much eliminated the mythical aspect, which I'm not inherently against. I prefer. Like the Iliad's one of my favorite books. Like I've read it more times than I can count. There was a point in time where I could recite passages from it from memory.
You can't anymore?
I haven't read it in a while, and no.
What in the space of time? Because obviously that means that those things were not important to you. What things have you replaced that with?
I don't even know.
So just age has diminished your knowledge capacity.
Age and life kind of kicking my ass for about 6 years. It was right. There was a rough period.
All right, so
was it anime?
That's an excellent lead-in before we get into the book to your launch of Elysian
Fields.
On Kickstarter. You launched tonight. You've got 22 backers. You're up to you're almost halfway to your goal. You've got 59 of your days to go. Talk a little bit about what this is, because I would say from conversations we've had in the past on this book, this is kind of the antithesis of what we'll be reviewing tonight with Age of Bronze.
Oh, 100%.
You have taken this and you've made it a lot of fun. It's an easy entry book. You can grab this without having any knowledge of the history and maybe learn something that might get you to that point where you can start on your 4 to 5 step journey to the point where you're going to enjoy Mr. Stan Hauer's Age of Bronze epic. So talk a little bit about this, Oden, as I scroll slowly down the page.
So Elysian Fields is effectively at its base is kind of like Mortal Kombat with heroes of mythology. We start the book off and you get to see Achilles' final battle at Troy. And he proceeds into the underworld, where eventually he is recruited to fight in this underworld tournament alongside Heracles and Hippolyta against other heroes from different cultures. So that's like it's really just kind of born from like fun and standard nerd debates on like who would win in a fight, except even nerdier kids, because we read
instead of Hulk
books.
Versus Wolverine, you have Achilles versus Heracles.
So it's like a better version of the Sid Meier's Civilization series.
Yeah.
Okay. So does it mean that in the future you're going to include Harriet Tubman?
Yeah, no, we won't be doing that. That's a bit too dicey for me.
Wow, that's not what you were saying in the back room about your support for Eternal
Remedy. God.
But you've got a great creative team on this. Obviously, yourself, Drew Williams, William Reyes, Lou Winter, Ruvian, and SK. Did his parents actually name him SK?
No, that's just what he goes by in the industry. He has an actual name, but
so instead of using his real name, he just chose 2 letters.
That's what he goes by as a letterer.
Hey, look, Prince could be a symbol, so
that's true. That's true. Prince made his way into a song with the symbol reference too. You've got some excellent covers here. I really do like the cover work. They're very engaging, and I think transmit what you're trying to do with the material very, very well. So my hat's off to you on that. They also all match your style. So congratulations on not having anything that's kind of a presentation that's outside of what you're delivering on the inside of the thing. And just congratulations, man. Congratulations on the launch. I will be backing this. It's not something I'm normally looking forward to, but we're buddies, man. So I got to back what you support, and who knows, I might actually enjoy it.
Well, I hope you do. It's been a lot of fun to put together. And if you don't, I'm sure I'll just get yelled at for it, which you'll also have fun doing.
Well, you're gonna get yelled at anyway because there's historical problems in this.
Like what, Aldous? Can you elaborate?
Nope, I already promised Oden I wouldn't. I'm just going to say sword hilts, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but like you're saying, you're talking a language that most people here don't get. So,
right.
Can you just elaborate on sword hilts?
I will just elaborate on sword hilts. Sword hilts are specific.
You can't Chekhov's gun the audience.
I can Chekhov's gun the audience. This is my show.
Aldous can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's the host.
So, but no, I will say this: Oden and I have a long-standing. We rib each other back and forth. And when the Napoleon movie, when Ridley Scott's Napoleon movie came out, Oden blessed me with a phone call at like 11:45 at night to flag me off from taking my own father to it. He's like, "I just got out of the movie. Don't go, wave off, Ghost Rider."
It was bad,
and I'm eternally grateful because I have since sped watched it on Apple TV, and oh my god, is it terrible!
The best thing that came from that was getting a message from Aldous on Twitter at like midnight. He was like two drinks in. I can't remember if it was whiskey or what you were drinking that night, but you had just started Napoleon. You got maybe 15 minutes in. It's like, I would literally kill myself with the amount of alcohol I would need to finish this.
It was a good time. Nefarious has joined us. Great to see Nef in the chat. Death Metal Hero has joined us. Always a pleasure to see Luke. Man, I got to talk to Luke. We got to get Luke on the gutter, man. So it's catching up a little bit, but everyone please like and share the stream. Oh, well, thank you, Kayla. That's very nice of you. And remember, please, eventually I am going to stop dual streaming on both the Lord Crackhead comic channel. So go over to the Gutter channel and focus on that one if you would. But with that being said, let's get back into the context here because we've kind of burned half the show. But opening up the trade paperback, which is available on Amazon. And I should say, like, yes, you can get this for $30. This is one of those books that libraries immediately snatched up and then nobody checked out. So go to your library when they do a book sale in the summer or winter. Usually they're biannually. You can probably get this from a library in used condition for like $5. It's one of those books that was really snatched up and supported heavily by the library industry and then not read. If you look online, there's like not as many reviews as you would think for this. So if this is in your wheelhouse, by all means, try that for an avenue before you go and grab it on Amazon. But I should talk a little bit about the front matter. And really, the front matter for this book is fantastic. They explain pretty much in a more formal and nicer way what I elaborated upon, which is they give you a general background of what Eric is trying to do with this. And then he also offers there's a nice forward to the trade paperback. And then they also explain some pronunciation guides, which is, I think, fantastic. And more books should do this, especially even if it's not historical and you're not using languages that aren't familiar. If you're using, like what Rini did in Fiendish, if you're using a manufactured language that you've created, do something like this. So the reader has something on page one that's like, oh, I can't just make up my pronunciation. There's rules.
Is by that all means, Eudaimonia dig?
No.
Oh, okay. Carry on.
Interesting. You went right there, though. Looking at the table of contents, you can immediately see what I'm talking about in that not only do they give that on page one, a little bit of the pronunciation guide, but they also give you an immediate map of the area. So you're familiar with all of the city-states, provinces, islands, and cities that will be referenced in this, which is incredibly valuable in an era where people don't know geography. But that also goes back. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword. You shouldn't be reading this if you don't know the geography. But if you know the geography, you don't need a map. So it's like,
well, I mean, the map was still helpful because it told you where the 7-Eleven was.
yes, that is true. The 7-Eleven in Ithaca features heavily in the story. I think the spinner rack is covered on page 12. So one thing to note before we get into this, though, the floppies were all in black and white, and the floppies are absolutely beautiful. They are, some of them are a lot better than others, but man, there's some absolutely brilliant pages in them. And this is one of those books, man, where I think colorizing it, which they did for the trades, was actually a mistake.
So there's actually two. So like I have two of the colorized trades, but down in my like box of graphic of like trades and everything, they did release these all collected in black and white initially as well, and then
I've never seen those. So they did release them collected.
I'll send you pictures at another point because I'm not just gonna go down there and like drag those.
Oh no, by all means, just get up in the middle of the show and go sort through your storage locker and find them.
Of course,
that'd be fantastic.
No, but point is that like these were initially released in black and white volumes, and I actually agree with you very much that I think that it's way stronger as black and white. I think that the colors are a bit flat. And I don't think that they do Shanower's line work justice. I think that it's way better as a black and white book, but like he was very excited to get this colorist. I think it was in 2013.
Yeah. I think it was 2013, 2015, somewhere in that range when they started releasing the colorized versions. And Luke, Death Metal Hero, says the line work does not need, dude, I know it kills me that they colorize this. Yeah, because the black and white is so good. I do think what they're going for is they're trying to expand out to another audience, because devastatingly, and it crushes my soul, there are people that don't buy colorized or black and white books. They just don't. They want to see color for whatever reason, and that's tragic, because there's a lot of beautiful black and white stuff out there. Dean has joined us. The Greek diners were famously the birthplace of Caesar salad. Oh. Well, we're going to learn a whole bunch tonight, I have a feeling.
All right. Anyways.
Yeah, so moving right in, we pulled up a couple of pages that you wanted to talk about specifically regarding this. And, I mean, just to everybody who hasn't read the Iliad or isn't even, marginally familiar with it, it's the story of the abduction of the Queen Helen of Sparta by Paris. And it's an act of passion. And that betrayal to King Menelaus,
I got you,
dude. He rallies the Greek forces in a unified expedition to retrieve her, and they go and they lay siege to Troy. Mm-hmm. And so that's the story. And the 1,000 ships is the first portion of that story. So kind of before I pull up the first page that you wanted to reference, Oden, set the table here for what we're going to be looking at with page 51.
So 51 was that? Let me.
I'll pull it up so that you can have a frame of reference there.
Okay, so this is Cassandra giving the. All right, so as Aldous said, the whole point of Age of Bronze is to create a historiographic retelling of the Trojan War in its entirety. So Iliad, which is like the bigger text that we have that deals with specifically the war, is the 9th year of said conflict. But there are a whole bunch of collected stories and everything like that of the events that lead up. And so what we have being shown here is Cassandra, who is one of Priam's daughter, has been gifted with the power of prophecy. But because she spurned the attentions of Apollo, he cursed her with the side effect of all of her prophecies are true, no one believes her. And so she is reaffirming the prophecy that Paris is the sword of destruction of Troy, because Paris has come back. And she's trying to warn Priam, and Priam's not really having it because he just thinks that she's crazy. And that's really how most of the Trojans treat Cassandra throughout the story. But the thing that I really liked about this page in particular is kind of showcasing that like how intense Cassandra's visions are, and how you would see this person and be like, yeah, you're fucking nuts.
No, for sure. And I think I want to prep everybody, because a lot of the pages that we've highlighted are fairly dynamic pages. Most of the pages throughout this book, again, this is a very historical take, and it is a dialogue-driven narrative. So most of your pages are this. It's there. If it's not heavy imagery in a very block format, it is a very narrative-driven. The dynamic nature of what you're seeing here with that top panel is not, it's interspersed well and deftly, but not nearly enough that keeps this engaging if you're not familiar with the material.
Yeah,
and so as lighthearted as my intro was, there is a hurdle to entry here that if you are not familiar or passionate about this material, you will not, it's not something that engages you on every page. It relies upon the context of, you have to love this story before you even got into it to see it in this format. And that's a little bit of a miss by Eric, in my opinion. I mean, he's done very well with this series, because I think there is a large number of literate people that really enjoy this story. But I think what he was trying to do was make it a little bit more accessible. And I think he kind of failed at that.
I completely agree. And I do also think that, like, there are small details that Eric does in these books that I found as interesting choices, because, like, while this is a historiographic take, we do have descriptions, like very detailed descriptions of certain characters that he chooses to ignore. Like specifically Helen having black hair, or Achilles having black hair. So and yeah, those are small details, but those are things that people who are really passionate about the story, it's like, well, that's a weird detail to change. And I realize that doesn't sound like it's that big of a thing, but when you read these texts and you see these characters have these very specific descriptions, that becomes what you expect. And yeah.
No, for sure. Absolutely. John's Longbox has joined us. He says, mine is in black and white. Is this a new edition? Yeah, this edition came out in, I just looked it up, 2018. There was the colored version was released for all the volumes. And since then, they've colorized all the volumes, like Oden mentioned earlier. And with that being said, we're going to go to the next page that you wanted to reference. But JP, there was a page that you wanted. There was at least a series of panels that you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a visual gag, so I don't know what I can add to it. But yeah, I found myself periodically making memes out of some of the panels. And you know what? Why don't we all just take a breath and let my work speak for itself.
This seemed like more of a Dior ad for like some cologne. Like I was waiting for like it to fade out at the end. Like, you know.
Wait, is this one it's been a while? This is Hector, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it comes a little bit later, but then we've got one more. Prepare yourself. There's one more JP reference coming up.
Okay, awesome.
Moving in, this is they're out in the sea, and this is the dynamic. This is where the book really hits a home run, I think, because when he chooses to do action, it's fantastic.
Yes.
And you get the sense of terror, you get the sense of horror, you get the vitality of life. But man, it's so interspersed throughout this book. Like you hit these moments, and it's these panels are great. The progression's fantastic. Right down to, like, again, beats and measures. We've talked about that a lot on the show, and establishing your tone and establishing your mood, because it's a melody across the page that your words are singing, of course. And man, this kills it. It's a great page.
Yeah, well, and to your point, Aldous, and I think this even goes back to what you were saying about Eric trying to make it more accessible and kind of blowing it, is, he really wanted to try and capture the full. It's very clear he wants to try and capture the full scope of all of the stories and everything like that, which is obviously it's a 10-year conflict, and then you have, I would say, like, probably, if you were to guesstimate, probably like a year of buildup to the war as well, between, Paris being rediscovered, the courting of the courtship of Helen, or however you end up presenting that. So like and they're running off. So like there's a lot to be done, and he's very meticulous about it. And as a result, I do think that one of the weaker parts, especially of, I think, the first two collections, is that there is not a lot of action, and action drives sequential storytelling. When you get something, it's really good, but like, you don't even get to like any battle sequence, like true battle sequences, until the third volume.
No, there's a lot of setup, and the exposition is well, you know what? I think Mike said it best. And, we love Mike here on the show. The exposition is just a little heavy-handed. Just a little.
Yeah, I mean, there were times where I would find myself kind of like almost nodding off.
No, it is. And this is the first volume. Again, the first volume that we're covering tonight only covers the first 9 issues. And there's another 9 after this that are still expositionary setup. There's brief moments of action, but it is it's almost like the first 2 volumes are just prologue. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it takes a lot to get to where you like go, oh, I remember this story.
Yeah.
If you have a common parlance understanding of the whole Trojan War. The setup, I mean, there's stuff in this. I've read the Iliad a couple of times, and there's stuff throughout these first 18 issues that it's like, I don't remember that. And I had to go back and read the Iliad and reference it again to go, oh, it is in there. Because it's not dry. It's just stuff you don't remember. And Eric is that autistically focused on making it historically accurate to the context of the page, that he's bringing everything in. And it's like, there could have been a little bit of a pool filter.
Then why is it in English, Aldous? Why is it in English?
Well, that is that's a long-standing argument that Oden can argue much better than I can on why you would ever truly read this in English, because
why isn't it on papyrus?
There are arguments that go back hundreds of years on that this should only be read in the original Greek, which then comes down to what's the original Greek. And Oden's head slowly.
We're not going there. We're not going there. All this. We're not going to the academic debate on which Greek is the right Greek, or how you should read the Iliad, or whether it should be read in Greek or Latin or this or that. We're not doing it.
Well, to add a little levity, I want to say this. Allie brings up a good point. For a brief period, Spartan outlaws all footwear as an extreme method of training, believing that toughened feet would make them stronger warriors. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why I love my chat, because after that, awesome one says, I knew a family that had a goat farm.
Wait, hang on.
And then Crazy Mad says, Dean, did you know that William Wallace impregnated the English queen?
Oh my God.
Wait, hang on. Backing up to what Ali said, how could that be true? Didn't the Greeks invent Nike shoes?
Yes,
of course.
Yeah. Yeah. The guy from Oregon that actually founded Nike dug out after the mud flood of Tartania and discovered the shoes that the Greeks had, and then founded a company on them. That is all true. And somewhere right now, Joe Ball is roaring with laughter. But moving on, we've got the next page. And again, we see some dynamic action here, and we've got a really nice page layout, really excellent progression that shows that understanding in a nice context. And go ahead, Oden, because this is one of the pages that you were talking about.
Yeah, so I think that the big thing that I really liked about this is, going into Eric Schnauer being that like meticulous with his detail. When you read Homeric epics, characters have epitaphs and titles that go along with their name. And so like Achilles is known as many different things. Probably his most prominent is swift-footed, but lion-hearted is also one that appears very frequently. So this is just one of those things where they're kind of alluding to the lion-hearted Achilles, where he's got the lion. He's in the middle of training with Chiron, and has captured this lion cub and is unafraid and everything like that. It's just, I think it's a very, very fun and good way to do the foreshadowing of what he's going to become, because obviously people know who Achilles is, but I think that one of the things that gets missed is just how young he was when this all started, and how war does end up playing a very big role in shaping who he becomes.
I think Oden just muted himself. So I'm going to read some chats.
Hang on real quick.
Paris had wood for wood, says Nefarious. And the original Iliad was written in linear. That's brutal. Brutal, Snuggie. Oden, you are not muted, but I can't hear you. So scrolling down a little bit more.
Can you hear me?
Spartans, what is your profession? Barefoot. Indeed.
I think Aldous' audio is messed up.
Yeah, because I can hear all this. I can hear you,
who else
JP.
We got here? We
JP,
got Lionheart. Decent.
I don't know, but this is a
Jean-Claude
comedy
Van
of
Damme.
errors.
There you go. Still can't hear you, Oden. JP, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
All right. Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so it's all this can't hear either of us. We should like this screams for like an Abbott Costello routine.
I know. Well, okay, so we lost Aldous. So here's my question for you, Oden. Okay. Everybody knows Achilles, but why has there been almost nothing written about ACL and MCL?
Oh my god. I fucking hate you, man.
All right. Aldous, can you hear us? No, he can't.
I will say this. StreamYard's been super finicky lately. I've been having issues with it. I know a lot of people have.
All right. Can you hear me now?
All right. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I got you guys now. Sorry for
that. All right.
What's going on there? In any case, I apologize.
While you were gone, I did a horrible job of filling in. Don't worry.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I expect nothing less. Well, speaking of that, why don't you go ahead and talk about this panel now, JP?
Well, it still makes me laugh. I just kept seeing, I don't know, I was just, there's some pages are so wordy, and I just kept seeing facial expressions that made me laugh, because the facial expressions in the book are really good, and sometimes I just kind of wanted to fill it in with something that made me chuckle, like, is Diet Pepsi okay?
That's fair.
Luke says, StreamYard seems to be recovering from a week-long Coke bender that didn't want to end. We had minor issues on Wednesday, but not like I'm having tonight. That was really strange. I've never had that happen before, where just everything cut out, but I still had control. So yeah, who knows what's going on. Those seagulls rocked the Casbah. Okay, number one, that was the Clash that rocked the Casbah, not this flock of seagulls. Oh, man. I feel like I'm old. In any case, moving on. Oden, this was another page. And I think this is a page that really exemplifies what we've been talking about with. It's a very narrative-driven
100%.
You have to have cross-referencing reference to. You have to have read it to understand a lot of what's going on in the dialogue and the discourse to get the subtext.
Yes. This is one of the few pages where I do think the color actually adds something as well. I want to note, because one of the things that I really appreciate about this is the coloring of specifically the architecture. and you've got like the bright, blues and reds and everything that we see on Mycenaean era architecture and everything like that. Whereas normally in a lot of why are words just like not working for me right now? In a lot of like pop culture representations of ancient times, it's bland buildings, no real color. Everything's just kind of, it looks like a ruin, except not as old. And I really like that they brought in this colorful aspect, because we know for a fact that these civilizations would paint their architecture, would have decorations and everything like that, and it was very bright and vibrant. And so I do really like it for that aspect of it as well.
No, and Henry Bemis says all this stubbornly refuses to let the chat or JP derail this conversation. Keep trying, folks. I appreciate everything you're doing, and someday you will all win. But for now, I stand victorious. And yeah, you make some excellent points. I do think the color adds a little bit here, but I'm going to stand by it that I think the initial black and white works better in the full context of the book. I think what
I agree completely.
You picked one page that might work better with the colors, but and I think the colors here also, it should be said, do a better job than on a lot of the other pages. A lot of the other pages that have color, like we initially saw, I'm going to go back and just show those first two, because man, I really want to make sure this point gets hit home. Eric's initial ink work is just fantastic, and when you add the color to it, it takes something away. And these pages don't really do the justice for what I'm saying, but you just notice all that green. The green just starts drowning everything out, and you lose those top three panels. Whereas in the black and white, they sing. And the same thing holds true throughout the book. And there are a few pages like this where the color kind of adds a little bit. But if you look at panel 5, you'll see a little bit of what I'm talking about. That just static blue background with that orange blot doesn't add anything. Yes, it's correct because they're looking at a painted map, but it bothers the eye, in my opinion. But going into the last panel that you wanted to talk about, and I think this is where Eric really does a fantastic job, is some of these composite style panels or pages, layering stuff on top of each other. And the tragedy of this book is he doesn't do this more. Like if he was to do something like this in some of those narrative techniques, you could really start breaking down some of these pages that are like 2 or 3 page expositionary pages into like a single page like this and burn through. And then you only have one book of this exposition instead of the 2 books of exposition before
I
you
agree
get to the Siege of Troy.
So,
and the talent's there, the ability's there, and that's the downside of this. So
I 100% agree. And to give people context of what this page is telling is it's very impressive, because he's literally telling the story of the Oath of the Suitors. So when Helen is at her marital age, she has a whole bunch of suitors come in. There's just one problem. She's pretty much already picked who she wants to marry in Menelaus. Her father doesn't want to piss off all these people who have come here to vie for her hand, and so he ends up approaching Odysseus, and Odysseus offers to solve the problem so long as he will allow Odysseus to marry Penelope as his wife. And so Odysseus comes up with this scheme where everybody has to swear an oath to accept the decision. And if anybody tries to break the oath and cause harm to the marital harmony of Menelaus and whoever is chosen and Helen, then they would all have to go to war against that party. And so Menelaus is picked. This maintains the peace of the Greeks, but this is also then used to get everyone to Troy, because the Oath of the Suitors is invoked, and all of the warlords of Greece that swore an oath are now obligated to come and fulfill it. And so he does this very cleverly, and I freaking love it, because you've got all of the suitors there. You can kind of pick out like, especially if you've read the books and everything, you can kind of make guesses as to who's who. It's very clever.
It is for sure. And Dale A says, "Man, I need a character guide to keep track of who's who in this book." And that goes back to, I mean, like I said, it was lighthearted, but it's kind of true. You
It
need
is.
to have a foundational understanding of this story for this book to work. So,
Well, do you
yes,
think it might
it's a
have
light
been
recommend.
beneficial? Do you think it might have been beneficial to incorporate name tags?
So he does actually have like the list of characters in the back. I don't even know if the name tags would have helped because it would just kind of clutter up the page. I think that the biggest problem here is what Aldous just really nailed on the head with. He wanted to try and make this more accessible, but by being so meticulous in detail and trying to start this at the very beginning, he kind of shot himself in the foot. There's a reason why, like, as I said, this is a 10-year conflict with probably at least a year of preamble, right? So
More than that, but yeah.
But like when you're looking at directly what affects the Trojan War, I mean, I guess you could go all the way back to the marriage of Peleus and Thetis,
Yes.
which is
It's generational. This buildup is generational, and that's why we've got 2 books to lay out that exposition, because we go back and reference this. You've got familial things that come from some of these lineages that. Why do we hate them? Well, it's because grandpa and their grandpa did this, and that affects how we feel because we're holding those grudges still because we're honor-based and it's family and we feel slighted. And it's a constant buildup over 3 to 4 generations to this point where it's the marriage of one woman to one man, and then she does womanly things and, oh my God, doesn't accept responsibility. Who would have imagined that? And absconds with Paris, and then we have a major war. It's not one issue. It's a generational issue. It builds up over time. And it's slow rolled through those first 2 books of an explanation as to why. And it hits home to that point for sure, Oden.
Yeah, like, and I think that it really is like the core issue is there is a reason why even the Greeks split these stories up. The unfortunate fact is that we only have the Iliad and the Odyssey. We have parts of what we call the Little Iliad, but the majority of everything else we have are from descriptions of plays that we no longer have, or some of the plays that have survived. So like there's a reason why the Greeks split these up into several epic narratives. And that's because each of them has is worth its own story, and it's a lot of time. So if you wanted to make the Iliad more accessible, the real answer would have just been to adapt the Iliad, or at least the events of the Iliad, into a graphic novel form that doesn't try to that isn't so meticulous. Like you either need to allow the audience a little bit of leeway to just do whatever, or you need to just, if you're going to be this meticulous, you need to just focus on the book that really shapes our understanding of the Trojan War, which is the Iliad. For sure. I agree completely. And Luke, I agree with this point, right? Maybe if the colors were a little desaturated, they'd balance out with the line work. I think that's a large part of it. The colors seem so just blocky. Yeah. And it takes everything away from that line work. And one of the worst sins you can make as a colorist is to like bring the attention to the colors instead of the line, right? The line work should sing when you color it. And one of the things that, honestly, I think in your campaign that you just launched tonight, and by the way, we do have an update on that. You're over halfway, so congratulations, my friend. You're at 25 back. Thanks, everybody. But I think if you look at just your little, just these first few pages, you can see what I'm talking about comparative to the color work on these pages. It's when you see that
that color, it's washing out that line work, like what Luke's saying. And this is a sin for a colorist. You're hiding it. Don't hide it. Make it sing. Show those definition lines. And it's not a huge slight, and I don't want to dwell too much on it, but it is there for sure. And KSSS says, was the Abraham Lincoln beard really popular back then, or did they just have a hard time growing a mustache? I mean, they're Greek. But I guess, Oden, 1,000-foot view about this. What's your long-term takeaway? I mean, what's your last word on this book series?
On Age of Bronze or Elysian Fields?
On Age of Bronze. Then we'll get into
okay. Last, like, I think bird's eye view on it is it's an very. It was a
before
very.
Before you say anything, I'll pull up. I'll hide this so that nobody clips it with you talking shit over your own book.
This sucks.
That's fair.
And then I'll put that up there. Now, please give your last words.
Okay, so my last words of it are this. I think Eric Shanauer had a very, very admirable motive for making this book. I think that there's absolutely a lot of love in it, and from an academic standpoint, like this is a pure collection of what we have of these stories, and it does a very good job of collecting those stories. The problem is that if the goal is to make this accessible, you've done the exact opposite.
I don't think he's done the exact opposite. I think what you have is, I think Eric, much like yourself and I am, we're very passionate about this story because it means a lot to us. I mean, this is arguably the earliest heroic epic we have in the Western world, right? And when you talk about that, and then when you look at like what Schliemann found, that this actually did happen, and there was a Troy, and it might not have happened exactly, there's that argument, but this happened. This was a historical event. Troy was a city, and there was a war, and it fell. And this is the keystone for us to understand what happened there. And when you have that passion for it, I think this, and what I think this book serves as a great warning to, is there's a lot of independent creators out there, and you have this wonderful world in your head, and you're trying to transmit that to a page, and you care about that world just as much as Eric Shanauer cared about the Iliad. The mistake that Eric made was that he assumed everybody cares about it as much as him. And a lot of independent creators, you make the assumption that your readers care about your world as much as you do. And they don't. You have to make them care. And when you make them care, you can't drop it all on a page. You got to slowly spoon feed it in and get them on the track. What Shanauer does here is he makes the assumption that there's these multiple hurdles of jump, but once you're in those hurdles, you're a full buy-in, and this book is great. And that's why it's a light recommend. If you're familiar with these stories, you're going to love this book. If you're not familiar with this, you're not going to enjoy this. It's not going to be something that you sit and reread with passion. Now, that all being said, I have never bought any of these at retail. I have always bought them on the secondhand market. Just because I feel what he did doesn't amount to what you should buy. So if you can find this on the secondary market and you're passionate about it, absolutely pick it up. If you're looking to spend money, though, and you're looking for something that's a lot of fun, by all means, I do suggest Elysian Fields. So go over this real quick. Again, Oden, if you would, give the pitch for anybody that joined late on what Elysian Fields is, and then we'll close out here for the night.
Yeah, as just to make it as simple as possible, the core of Elysian Fields is that it's effectively Mortal Kombat with heroes and mythology. You have Achilles dies and goes to the underworld and is dragged into a tournament where he is fighting alongside other heroes from his culture, Heracles and Hippolyta, against heroes from different mythologies. And so, that's really what Elysian Fields is. It's just really fun time. We do have, obviously more human narrative aspects that we explore, because it's me. I'm not just gonna, make it all spectacle with no narrative, but that's the whole goal, is to just kind of have this be a revival of sorts, where hopefully it can get some people interested in these characters and these stories, because they're important.
They are for sure important. And Arrogant Ape has an idea for you. He says, okay, hear me out, Odin. Your comic plus little toy cars equals Elysian Wheels. Wheels.
Ooh, or a romance, Elysian Feels.
Ooh. I mean, that's hot on the market right now, I hear.
Or
right there.
The New York Jets, Elysian Justin Fields.
Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. All right. Well, JP, what were your thoughts on this book? You've been kind of quiet tonight.
Oh, well, you kind of outran how far I got. I mean, well, dude, it's 600 pages. Come on, how far did you think I was going to get?
I know. I'm sorry.
You know, I was a little bit disappointed, you know, when they were traveling and they stopped at a Little Caesars for a hot and ready, because like Caesar, that's Rome. That's not even Greece. Like, why? What's up with that? And to your point about like creators, you know, not understanding that people might not care about their world as much as they do. You know, next time I launch my book, if you're not into my world, piss off. I don't care.
And I missed Phil joining us. Phil Ansamoto's here. Thank you so much for joining us, Phil. He says, I'm doing the nerdiest, most metal thing I can do this weekend. Get back to conquering Doom Eternal on Nightmare Mode. Well, there you go.
Godspeed, sir.
And Henry Bemis says, if you find yourself alone, riding in the green fields with the sun on your face, do not be troubled, for you are in Elysium and are already dead. Indeed. Well, I think that's a good point to end on. The link for Odin's campaign is in the description, as well as his Twitter machine account link. So go and if you are not already following Odin, make sure you follow Odin. He's got tons of great stuff in the works, and he's a good man. He is my friend, or at least he was when I still co-hosted shows with him before he kicked me to the curb for his girlfriend. So with that being said,
minute. I need to get back into it.
Proud to host you tonight, man. Thank you so much for stopping by and joining us on the gutter. The last word is going to go to you before I kick it over to the outro.
Thanks for I'm sorry, my mind just went.
I will be dropping the link in the chat for you to join us in the back room during the outro. Thank you so much, and have a great evening, all. Later.
This is blood for blood and by the gallons. This is the old days, man, the bad days, the all or nothing days. They're back. There's no choices left.
still here?
It's over. Go home.